welcome to the StephUp podcast. I am your host, Stephanie Ann Webb, and this is a special bonus episode, which I'm really excited about because I just thought of it today and Catana was free. So, and my guest today is my friend, Catana Malinowski, who's going to introduce herself because I said I can't remember all the stuff that you're going to tell me.
I am Catana Malinowski, and I am a life strategist that uses transformational art and wellness strategies. I am a multi-time international author, two-time best-selling international author, speaker, artist, mother, activist, and lover of nature people. And
And you have a political podcast.
I do. It is Champion for the People with Catana Malinowski. I'm the host.
See,
And
that's why I asked you to introduce yourself.
and this I love this episode that we're going to do because it's a combining of the ways that those two things come together, of the transformational art, wellness strategies, and politics. So I'm going to put that back on you for you to share with the your audience. And
Well, in the end, I've had a few people on who, when I ask, like, introduce yourself, they're like, I'm a human having a human experience doing all these different things. Because how do we even identify who we are? Like, it's tricky, right? And I'm
agree.
always changing who I am. I'm like, oh, I think I'm doing this today. But yeah. So I've known you for about 4-ish years. And I had you on the podcast last season when we were talking about your book, Why Are You Happy? And we were talking about resiliency.
Yes.
Because you have so much that you can share with all these different aspects. But today I really I said that, Katana, this is important because of the climate that we're in right now to talk about how can we navigate the political challenges, the political discourse and division and move forward with love while also fighting for what's what we believe in, fighting for democracy, fighting for all those things. And this is so challenging. And I see a lot, and you and I have both been in these, like, I'll talk to you and I'll say, Katana, I'm really angry. And I really just like, these people. And we'll have this understanding because I'm like, but also I have to be loving. And how do I do that when I'm also like, you gotta stand up for things. And this is very tricky. And that's what you do discuss on your podcast as well.
Mhm.
But you were our, remind me what you did. And you're an independent,
Yeah, I am an independent. And when I was still living in Nevada, I became the president and founder of Independent Voters of Nevada. And I worked on process reform so that the process of election process, the whole of the election process, included every voter at every step of the way. Currently in the United States, we have a primary system that actually is set by the states and the two parties that have the most control, or through money anyway, because they control the process. But what that happens is then they leave out different groups of people. And that was what my group, in conjunction with our national affiliate, independentvoting.org, that was what we were working on, was process reform. And I got deep into that. I did legislative work for Action Nevada, Northern Nevada. And we got minimum wage increase. We got affordable housing bill passed. And then I was running for state senator when COVID came in, and I had to withdraw due to the rules being that I had to get signatures from the people and we were in lockdown.
Mhm.
So I was unable to actually acquire all the signatures needed. So yeah, I've got 17 years. I've also got consultation. I did campaign managing from, county level up to presidential level. I've Yeah. So I've been in it deep for a while.
You've been in the thick of it and
Hmm.
you've met, like, you met President Obama and Bernie
Yeah.
Sanders and Cory Booker. I remember you telling me some of these stories, and I was like, that's so cool.
Yes,
Uh,
they are fun stories.
So, there was something you told me last week about a situation on Facebook where, and you handled it so well. Because I said to you, I don't know what to do, Katana. I don't have the energy and the knowledge to comment on some of the posts. Like that really takes a lot. Um, but you saw this arguing or kind of hateful comments, I feel like,
Mhm.
and then you were asking questions to kind of bring about a discussion. Can you, like, without giving too much detail, can you talk about, you know what I'm talking about, right? That,
Oh, I do. I do. Because I just got a little bit of a response back from that.
oh,
From the man, I
okay.
will say the woman walked away and the man had to kind of have that last word, which
Oh,
is,
men, why?
there's a lot of things that go with that. But I was thinking, how many times do we want to be that person that makes that last comment, right? But I did have a comment back and I have no intention to respond. So maybe I ended up being that person. Tag, you're it. But yeah, I saw another person that I know who works similarly to what we do. And she was kind of getting tag teamed by some people that supported the rounding up of people off the streets, out of buildings, out of hospital beds, and whatever, and forcibly taking them, throwing them in vehicles, not even identifying who you are to these people. And if we don't think that's a threat, we can look at what happened in Minnesota. The man was in uniform posing as a police officer. So we do want that communication as human beings, but to go aside from that, so they were pro everything that was happening and coming at her that this was ridiculous that anybody would support this. They need to just be removed and sent away. They should be gone immediately. And I came in and I answered both a man and a woman about what is actually in the immigration policy that's been in place for over 100 years, that this has been an issue far longer than any of these people have been involved. We're being manipulated by this, and we deserve to give people, a process, and it's already in our books. I'm going to take a drink of water here.
Well, because, and you're in the States. So I should have
Yes,
said that.
I'm
I'm in
in
Canada and you're in the US.
Northern California. Yes. So I'm kind of in a little bit different setting. Things happen here a little bit calmer, not quite as in your face as what happens down there, but the police tend to be more in your face in that part of the state. So, I mean, it's fair judgment on that part. They are. They're just, and it's been known for a long time, and that kind of needs to be said too. But so they were ganging up on her on this, and I just came back and I gave them points. I said, this has been an issue for a long time. If you choose, to read the immigration law, which I have, it gives you the guidelines by which these people deserve a process and to be treated as human beings. Now, I'm going to give a quick caveat because I don't know how many people are aware that Donald Trump has petitioned the Supreme Court to relax torture and allow torture to be permissible. So that's pretty serious stuff,
Yeah.
these that all these people are facing and more. So we have these things coming up this week. And I might have this calm demeanor on the outside, but I don't always stay calm on the either. And I want to bring that in later. But so and I gave these folks these points, just factual points. These are on the law books. That's something I didn't throw in there. I do have a master's degree in legal studies with an emphasis in constitutional law. I graduated at the top 4% of my class, and I am in two honor societies that recognize that achievement. With that being said, that's because I wanted to know what I was doing when I was going to the legislature. I wanted to be able to stand up as a citizen and say, you're not the only ones that know this stuff. And it is important.
Mhm.
The citizens need to be aware of what these general laws are and what these general systems are so that our country system can function properly. With that being said, I gave these points and I did say that I had my master's degree in law. It wasn't at all about boasting. It was simply to give an example that, hey, I do know something about this. And the laws currently on the books say these people deserve a fair process.
Mhm.
One of them came back and said, no, they just all need to be deported. So I left that at that. And I think that's part of it, right? We need to just say, okay, because the seed of thought was already planted. Well, what if there was a different way? Oh, and I did go back with her as well after the other gentleman. I said, when we lose humanity, we lose everything. And what country would you want? What country do you want? Which I mentioned to you is something we need to ask ourselves. How much do we know about what we want?
And who do
And
you want to be?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
when it can be so easy, and especially online when you don't know people and all that, um, to to demonize, to dehumanize, to call
Mhm.
names. And people are upset, and it's just uh, it's causing more and more division. And that fear and that division is because we have decided that we want to be divided. Now, without really maybe even knowing that that's what we want.
Mhm.
But like, for example, like I'll see, and you and I both see these posts, right? Um, if you believe in this or if you voted for this, delete me as your Facebook friend. And I understand it. I did that many times. I used to delete people if they voted differently than me because that's how I was raised. Like they're the evil ones, quote unquote, and all that stuff. Um, but now I'm like, no, you know what? That's going to tear people further apart. That's going to cause them to say, look what the other side does. And that's the problem because the other side and then the other side are blaming each other and saying, look how hateful they are. Look how hateful the other side is. And I've heard it on both sides.
Oh,
And
yes.
it's like, guys, this is what the fear, that's what they want to cause division. They, it's, and that's why I love a politician who is emotionally intelligent and one who says, we need to come together. I love that.
Yeah, when I ran, in fact, my profile is still on the internet. My website for when I was running for state senator, Nevada's Phoenix, and I'm of the people, by the people, for the people. And that's the thing, is that what I work toward is the goal that gives a better life for everybody in the best way possible. Because the fact of the matter is we can't please everybody all the time. What we have now is a chaos that's created when people try to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody's running around trying to make sure everybody feels comfortable, and well, if we had comfort all the time, things would never change. And I think we're also experiencing some of that because people got really comfortable in just maybe even just doing that quick election thing once every 4 years for president, don't pay attention to the state stuff, you know, and you just leave it to somebody else to determine your life. And sometimes I don't think we connect with that part because these people that we elect, we are putting them in charge of our lives. And it isn't as if we get complacent and just say, okay, go do it. And we're not putting our input. We don't have to beat people over the head. If we're voicing our opinion regularly, we don't have to be mean. I've actually got pictures of me with people from all different parties. And yeah, when I was running for state senator, Bernie Sanders wanted to endorse me. And I'll just say the Democratic Party wanted me to convert from being an independent to a Democrat in order to allow that to happen. And I refused.
Because
I'm
you were
about,
like, there's problems on both sides.
yes,
And
it's everywhere.
that's the thing that I think people can get, they can burrow further and further into one side because um, they'll say, well, we're going to fix the problem. And the other side is like, we're going to fix the problem. No one politician or party is going to fix your problem. We have to do that. We have to come together and work together and love and fight for the right things. But yes, like you're saying, I think, oh, we're gonna say something about what I said, the right things.
Well,
Somebody could challenge me on that even.
the right things. So when I was doing Lyft Uber, when I was driving a taxi, I mean, these were brilliant opportunities to be with people and have real conversations, which I did. And I'm extremely grateful for them because you get to learn about a lot of different people, a lot of different walks of life, and a lot of their outtake. Um, One of the things that I noticed is that they all wanted the same thing. Didn't matter what party, didn't matter what wealth or lack thereof. They wanted to love and be loved, have a partner, whether that's in marriage or just somebody they're with regularly. Didn't matter if they were the same sex or not. And that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is what touches the heart, what touches the soul, what gets us forward. Right. Because I was mentioning this earlier before we got on with somebody else was I don't spend time worrying about what my neighbors are doing because that doesn't belong to me.
Mhm.
And if they don't think like me, that's quite okay. I'm sure I don't think like them and they could think the same thing. Where we have a misfire is when we get into thinking that they have to think like us
Yes. Yes.
in order to be safe, because we're safe as long as we're good inside. But I was going back to the love. The love is really a key component that each person carried through that. Family, friends, good times, having a home, having a car, living comfortably and being able to do the things that they enjoy. Hmm. Sounds to me like we all kind of want the same thing.
Yeah. And that's what I meant by the right thing. And
Yeah,
it
I
is
knew
very,
exactly what you meant.
oh, good. With you, I don't really have to explain. Or, but I, yeah, and I've noticed this with so many different things when, and it's fascinating when you start to observe people communicating and the miscommunication. You're like, really? Most people, they're talking about the same thing even, but they're
Yeah.
arguing because they think they're talking about different things. Or this person wants the best for society and this person wants the best for society. They just see it differently, but
Mhm.
what they want is what's best for society. And so when we can come together on, okay, we disagree, and yet how can we work together on the things that we do agree. Do we agree that people should be allowed to live in freedom? Do we believe that people shouldn't get rounded up and just taken off the streets? Like, but a lot of that's based in fear as well because they're fearing the
Mhm.
other, which is freaking what happened in Germany.
Oh, yes.
And
Fear.
that's I mean, if we don't, thankfully we know a lot about history from the movies. Hollywood makes a lot of movies on these things. Um, but we still don't always get it, right? And we don't understand what's going on behind it because when governments or media is always trying to put fear, and
Mhm.
it's all sides. Um, and that's well, actually that was a funny thing too. During COVID, now I come from a religious background, as you know, and there was a like, do not fear, and they didn't want to be in lockdown or wear masks because they're like, don't fear COVID. And yet, on the other hand, there when stuff comes out, they're like fearing everything else. And I kind of found that amusing because I was like, okay, guys, if we're not gonna fear, I get it, but you can't just like say do not fear about this and then like you're freaking fearful over here. But there's that under not understanding that they are living in fear. Yeah, I'm going weird places here. But
No, you're
you,
not. You're not
well,
because
for me, this is controversial and I'm not used to it. But
uh, well,
yeah,
yeah, that's why you have me here to help you.
yes, that's your thing. But you know me, I'm like, oh no, what did I say? But
Well, no,
that's what isn't always what I'm thinking. I just don't always say it on podcasts and stuff.
yeah, yeah, and I've had to come to some real spots for myself lately, and there's a lot of things that I like to share. Like, for instance, yeah, I do my best to stay as fully understanding as I can be to what somebody's thinking about. Okay, well, how would that affect me if I were in this position? I still cannot wrap my brain, no matter what position I try to put myself in. And I've been in many. So I've earned this walk to try on different shoes. And I do. I really do try to understand from everybody's perspective. When it comes to having to harm and control other people in the utmost of unhealthy ways, including threatening death, and I'm calling that out because we had a sheriff and a governor say it was okay to kill people for this protest we just had, the No Kings protest. That's not okay.
Mhm.
That's where the line is drawn.
Yeah,
That's not okay.
I'm glad you said that because I think and this is the tricky part with those of us who are more who want to live more in sorry, in nuance, or we want to be more like middle. We don't want to be left or we don't want to be right. I grew up one way and then I kind of went the other way, but I'm like, I want to be more in the middle. I don't want to be either. I'm an independent. I vote depending on the upon which election and who I like, whatever. Um, Now I grew up always voting the one way because I had to because I was a Christian because my dad said so. Anyways, where was I going with that? Okay, so for those of us who want to stay more nuanced, normally it's fine. But I have noticed in a lot of spaces where people say that, but when it becomes more of an actual problem, of an actual danger, it's not just one party or the other. And it's like, well, whoever, it becomes actually um, attacking democracy.
Mhm.
That's tricky because people just are like, oh no, it's still perspective. And I'm thinking, "Ugh." Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I do, because what has happened here, and I know we've had a little bit of discussions about this when when I've needed to vent too. Um, and um, oh my goodness, the for example, the gentleman that I was talking about earlier that was going after my friend, oh, the rule of law. We must have the rule of law. Well, the rule of law is being broken. It is being broken by the president. The president doesn't have the authority to deal with federal agencies in any way, shape, or form. That belongs to Congress. That is a legislative function in our system. He is not to have his hands on that. He can have immigration. That's under his umbrella. Now, we have a right to say we don't like the way he's handling that. That is a fact. There are limits to how we show up to do that. And that's the unfortunate part is people aren't being taught what those limits are. So they automatically go into, well, I have the right to do this. No, well, actually on the books, because how many people are going to know that by federal law, no, ICE, if you get between ICE and what they're doing, that's a violation of federal law that can result in prison time. And it doesn't matter if you're a lawmaker or not, if you interfere with that federal process. Now, I'm not saying the way they're going about it is proper in any way, shape, or form, because I believe in humanity and love, compassion, empathy, and all those wonderful things that I'm not going to let somebody tell me are bad things. And I'm not using them as a weapon. I'm not villainizing anybody else. I'm saying that I stick with love. Thank you. Have a nice day. But it's that other stuff that gets in the way, and it's so ugly. It's but they say, well, that's not right. And everything that happened, this is what I think you were talking to a little bit earlier, and that's where I'm coming back to it. So there are people the no, Trump was never tried legally. No, Trump was never found guilty legally. No. So they go through and deny every single point that is a factual, lawful point.
Mm.
It's on the books. It's been seen this way by everybody forever and ever. Amen. One of the things that we have to see is that it's a small group of people that are holding on to that. It's easy to get lost because the media helps them feel big.
Oh, the
They're not
media is a
big. They're a nightmare, and I've been after that one for decades.
and you
Um,
just saw it get
yeah.
more and more and more crazy on both
Mhm.
sides. And it's very interesting. I when you see YouTube videos or articles or emails that pop up and they use certain words, I'm like, I might watch it just to see, but this is where media literacy, critical thinking is so freaking important.
Oh my gosh, yes.
We need that because of, when you use words like this person got owned and you watch the video, you're like, well, that's clickbait. Okay. It,
Mhm.
I've seen discussions. There's one dude who I just can't stand. And he was doing a Jubilee, those the Jubilee channel where they have people from different sides sit down and
Yeah.
discuss. It's a beautiful channel. There's one guy on, and it was like him against all these liberals. And all he did was just say, nope, 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 nope. And I was like, what? I have no respect for this dude. And it's not because he's the side that he's harmful. And I'm like, this is not a discussion. You're a bully. You are a bully. And you are not, you're just like telling people, I'm like, this is a stupid video. And I've seen his emails that pop up and he uses these words. And I'm like, when the media uses certain words to grab your attention, that's what we need to be aware of.
Hmm.
And I love the articles where they're using neutral words, um, rather than like such, what's the right word I'm thinking of?
Oh, they're loaded words. That's
Manipulative,
exactly what
loaded, yes.
they. Mhm.
And if we don't realize that, we're not taught this in schools, then we're just believing everything that comes at us. And if, especially if it's for the side that you vote for, um, you're going to be like, yes, because your brain automatically confirmation bias. You're just like, yes, this confirms what I believe, so it's true.
Oh
I
boy,
get so
yes.
upset over this, like, because you just see the world start to
Well,
divide and just be like, I'm like, no, guys, stop
so
it.
this is where practicing the love and the compassion and even empathy comes in even stronger. This is where our intuition that if somebody's saying something icky, that's where we need to breathe love into it, right? We need to send love and loving energy into it because ultimately this person's responding from fear.
Mm.
Fear of the way things have been, fear of things they've experienced, and we can't deny them their own experiences just because they're lashing out.
Although
Uh,
some of these people know exactly what they're doing and they're the ones creating fear.
well, yeah, I mean, there are some,
Like
but even the
to make
people who are
money.
doing,
Sorry.
well, and I'll come back to the media ethics in just a second
Okay.
because I could speak to that as well. But
I think that's what pisses me off the most is just when people know exactly what they're doing and they're making millions off of it. Like,
and again, they're a product of their society. We have this capitalist society that has been exploit, exploit, exploit to the. I mean, if you have to make that thing disappear until, you exploit it enough to where it's done, then you move on to the next thing and exploit it until it's done. And we're seen as a product of each other, which we've talked about in coaching spaces. And I am going to call out coaches on this one. When you talk to somebody just to make the potential sale, you've lost your connection as a human. You've lost your humanity. That's part of losing the humanity when we're not connecting as people first. So the people, even the ones that are manipulating, I mean, it's not easy. This is what I say is this is not an easy place to go because I know how I used to be when I was younger and I was an angry person. And so I was looking anything that my little brain could make up to get even with people, be obstinate with people, anything that would drive them to have their eyes bug out of their head was my goal. Why not? If I'm going to get in trouble, that was how I saw things. Did it mean that that was really what I needed? No. Did it mean that they were lessons I definitely learned from. Point is that could I have made different choices? Yes. Did I have anybody around to help me make different choices? No. So I did what I knew to do to get through. I'm not giving any excuses to bad behavior. Hurting people is not okay. We can do better though, but when we understand that what if we were coming from whatever place they're coming from? What if they've got some real bad shit? Or what if they just experienced their first traumatic stuff? What if they're believing what this person's telling them that all of the ills in your life are created because of that? What we have a responsibility to do is one, keep ourselves grounded and in check. We know that's not true.
mm-hmm.
So we have to hold that because the minute we have any doubts about that, then it begins to feed into that. See, we were right. See, it was true. So
Mm.
we've got to hold that, right? We've got to say, no, that's not true and hold that.
And that's
And
why when there's protests, they're like, be peaceful. I mean, that's why Martin Luther King Jr. was like, we got to show that we are not the ones doing that. And because they have nothing to come after you with if you're being peaceful. They might come after you, but they have no um what's the right word for that? There's nothing that they can say about you because you actually weren't doing anything wrong.
And and the thing here is to know that nobody's saying don't be angry.
Hmm.
You can still be as angry as Spitfire on the inside and use that anger to say, you know what? No, I'm not going to let you steal my power. I am not going to let you put me into the position where I am going to behave like you to get to the ends means. I'm not going to do it. Again, it's so much easier said than done. I find it easier now that I've been practicing it for so long. And it really does get down to that practice and knowing that, the biggest thing that changed for me is love and finding unconditional love in myself, but actually allowing people in to support me, love me, and knowing that fear drives most of our responses, well, most of our reactions. If we can control our reactions and breathe, just hit that pause button. The moment you get lit up, I got lit up last night by something that the White House press secretary said. And I was livid enough to say those things that I don't want to say.
Hmm.
And then I took a breath and I let it out and I let it move through me. And, I was like, okay, now how can I best use my energy that's there to point to people that that's not okay? Because what she said was definitely not okay. And it can hurt. It can feel like a personal attack because trust me, I have Medicaid. I have food stamps. And a lot of people say, aren't you afraid to say that? The minute I become afraid to say that, I'm giving them my power.
Right.
That doesn't
Allowing,
mean I can give them the details, but I am part of the public. That's been my thing all along is that I'm here to help be a voice for all of us. So that's why I have my podcast. And that's in a lot of ways, that's what you do. You share your voice and you help people take that one next step throughout the day and go, yeah, there is some beauty and love around you. And being in unconditional love. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to watch this and think we're both just a couple of nuts, but you know what? That's
which
okay.
nut are you? I'll be an
I
almond. Sorry.
I want it to be the almond.
Oh, did you? Oh my gosh.
But it's true. And that's what all the thought leaders have been sharing with us forever.
Yeah.
Ultimately, when we get to the bottom line, we're all the same. We're wrapped in different skin packages, but underneath, we are all the same. We, and as humans, we're just out to have a good time, have love in our lives, love, be loved, enjoy life.
And grow through
And
these experiences because our souls came here to learn something.
yes, there are going to be moments that are not going to be great, but we can reduce those just by doing more and in understanding each other and being okay with differences. But what is it that we want to come together on? What is it that we want, is really a focus that everybody can put good energy into. How much effort do you want to spend every day? The jelly bean video. I'm sorry, I'm being guided to say this. The jelly bean video that represents people's life in the number of jelly beans. I think it's like a breath, but it's this is how many minutes you get in your lifetime. And they're
Oh,
taking away jelly beans until you have that last one there. If you could see your life that way, would you make different choices? Would you want different choices?
oh.
And reacting comes from being able to understand and control your emotions. Responses come from emotions unchecked.
Mhm.
And my goal, my whole life, even when I was younger, I knew I wanted to respond. I didn't want to react. But for a long time, I reacted. big time. And sometimes it was the ugliest thing I'd ever seen.
I I don't know about you, but I watched Survivor
Mm.
and I mean when it first started it was like people like the fight and they like rah when they got really mad and did stuff. But then it's changed over the years. And what I have always loved though is watching those people who were really they wanted to win $1 million and the title and they went for it. But they were also able, when they got voted out, they were able to say, good job, you got me, without being angry and blaming and all that stuff, because it's a game. And I
Mhm.
would see that, and I would see Jeff Probst and his emotional intelligence as he's asking questions and getting, and I was like, how do I be like that? I just always wanted to be like that, you know? And obviously, I'm still working on it because I get riled up sometimes, but it's definitely less. And I didn't even swear today, Katana, or did I? Um, but I said freaking instead. But because when I swear, you know I'm riled up or I'm angry.
Mhm. Which leads me back to the media ethics that you brought up earlier.
Okay.
So, in order to graduate from the university in Nevada, you have to have a minor. So, it's a long story short, I was placed into journalism as my minor. I was an artist. I wanted to do marketing. The business to school would not let me in. And there's a long story behind that one. It had to do with the fact that I got a professor fired. So they were afraid of me and they didn't want me in there. And so I got um, shuffled into the journalism school. So I took advertising and marketing, very similar, very similar. Because I mean, if as a professional artist, what's the one thing I need to know how to do? Sell my art. Kind of makes sense. If I want, whether it's for a show or and all of this kind of gets around to the same thing because art is extremely as political as you can get. And so it's really funny that I'd be an artist in politics. And even though I swear up and down I would never join the political thing, and here I am. But now I love it. And it's a purpose and it's a passion. So it's got two important components. But one of the classes I had was media ethics,
Mm.
and it was during 9/11.
Oh.
So you can imagine there were some things that class taught everybody
Hmm.
because the professor talked to us before we got to see anything other than what we had already seen before we left our homes. The class was fairly early in the morning, so we hadn't seen a lot yet. I mean, other than what was there before we got there. And the whole discussion was if we were going to see a manipulation for money first, or we were going to see a manipulation for sympathy of the attack on the nation first. And we all knew that it was pretty much unanimous that we would see the exploitation,
Yeah.
and immediately it was there. Now, you and I go have been in certain spaces. Some would say that everybody created it by thinking that. Well, if everybody thinks that's what's going to happen, that's what's going to happen. Well, maybe you're right. Then if it's that simple, then why don't we think a better tomorrow for everybody? Because if it's true, it'd be nice if it was that simple.
Hmm.
And we know that it isn't. Not quite. Not
Right.
quite. Yeah. And if we're all putting good energy into good things,
It's the
yes, because
collective when it comes to those big things.
yes, and I believe that collective being apprehensive of change. So you have that collective, right? That they really don't want it to change because what does that look like?
Mhm.
They're afraid of it. Then you have the ones that are afraid they're going to get left behind, or somehow it's going to mean that they're not receiving the same things when that isn't really what it means at all. So you have all these different perspectives, and everybody's trying to get it to match their way, and it's bringing this chaos in. And what do we have? We have chaos.
Hmm. And there's also an entitlement
Oh,
attitude and a power
yeah,
attitude. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's
you're
it's a
right.
complex history of countries doing things to other countries, and then they retaliate, and then it's like, well, look what they did. Well, they did it because they were retaliating from years what you did years before, and then it becomes this enemy thing. And then when you hear, that's where it is perspective as well, because when I learned about why 9/11 happened, I was like, oh, we were not given this narrative
Mhm.
because of what was done to the other countries. And I I'm not an expert, I don't know. But I just know like basic stuff here and there. But it's
Well,
just,
when
oh,
we're
the world.
open, yeah, when we're open, it's such a better, when we're open to the possibilities of anything,
Yeah.
to that stuff that we don't know, and be open to understanding, at least learning about it and understanding. It doesn't mean you have to agree with it. It just means understanding it so that you know where your space is in around that. Because we can't, yes, we have our individuals. We are individuals. We have us that we are responsible for. At the same time, we are part of the collective. And no matter how much, I mean, if we didn't go on to meet somebody and then have more children, it isn't like poof, okay, you're automatically these little families that are following these little nuggets to the next one. And we all know that that's already what's going to happen. We're creating together.
Hmm.
And yeah, but the media manipulates, and the media, and I have shown that with what we get now, where I've seen them take, for instance, the Vote Act, where they were changing the requirements for registering to vote and proving, and no, and yeah, even if you vote on the spot, you have to come up with these documents. But it does say clearly in the law that if you already have a real ID, then you've already met those requirements. So do you see the manipulation of that? Most people already have their real ID. I've had mine since 2015. And now everybody's required to have one, and everybody's been told about it. People were told about it all along. It wasn't like it was a surprise. A lot of people wanted to buck the system, say, I'm not going to do that. You can't tell me what to do. And this bill. I know that there's going to be a lot of pushback, and I'm ready for it, but I've watched this be argued for 17 years. So this thing about protecting our voting, what ultimately is being asked is that they want people to prove they're American citizens before they vote, that they prove who they are before they vote. And even to the dismay of a lot of people around me that I know, I say I'm for that. I don't want somebody else to vote for me. I don't want somebody else to be able to accidentally or on purpose vote for me.
Right.
So, but the media and unfortunately the Democrats are taking this boogie monster and saying this is going to disenfranchise all these people. Now, given that I have had my financial situation be where I've had to piece together coins to get things done, I have found a way each time because I've actually believed in that. I call it the universe. I say the universe always gives you what you need. You don't always get what you want, but you do always get what you need. And some to some people that's going to look different as to what that need is. It could be a meal. to stay alive. It can be a house that's over your head. But there's different things, and that's okay. And we're not meant to judge each other. But they're saying that because there are people that don't have those documents and might have challenges getting them, that we shouldn't prove.
Mm.
That's forcing people to do something that's beyond their means. Well, if we're truly a nation of helping people, and we're truly a nation of helping people get that, then do that. Help people get what they need so they can get it. Does it mean they'll get it right away? Maybe not. But that needs to be acknowledged and rectified. But I've watched lots of groups of people argue over this. Democrats, Republicans, some libertarians, and all of these different people doing all this different stuff. If the Democrats say, oh, well, let's have people, and you're not going to hear that because they just won't do it. But if they came forward and said, you're right, let's have everybody, oh, they did in Nevada. The Democrats came forward and said, let's use the DMV database. We'll have everybody that even undocumented, we'll get them an ID, and that way we'll be able to account for them through the DMV system. And they could link it right up to the voter ID because they already had registered a vote at the DMV. So they'd be able to link it up.
Hmm.
Republicans said no because it was introduced by the Democrats.
Oh my God. So stupid where it's like back and forth fighting. And and also one thing that it the media seems to do as well, and others, we like to
Mhm,
focus on the problems instead of the solution.
mhm.
So when we like, oh, look what they're doing. Oh, we're so angry. Oh, there's a solution out there. Let's go find it instead of putting all this energy into getting people riled up about this one thing that maybe there's always a solution for something. We can find something, right?
We are not a solution society.
No,
Our medicine is a big example of that. We want the issues because then
we like
there are lots
complaining.
of people making money off of it.
And we like complaining. North America,
Oh my gosh.
I heard Canadians are like the most complaining about the weather. I don't know how true that is, but it's what I've heard. We just complain no matter what. But I do say, guys, if I don't complain in the winter, do I get to complain in the summer? Because I don't like the humidity. Um, but anyways, I am sitting on this chair and it's driving me crazy because my legs are it hurts because of the material and I'm wearing a dress. So I'm moving. Sorry. There was one thing I wanted to read to you that actually came up today in an article.
Okay.
And we've got the G7 happening this weekend or today in Canada here. And I saw this article that came up. It was a Canadian Indigenous leader who was greeting the world heads of state. He was filled with rage and considered leaving before the US president arrived because he,
Mm.
quote unquote, he quote, caused much pain and suffering in the world. But so the man's name is Stephen Crowchild. He prayed, he consulted with his people's leaders, and ultimately opted to stay on the tarmac for a long conversation with Trump that he hopes will call more attention to promoting peace, protecting clean water, and other issues key to Canada's First Nations. Um, he wore his traditional, the feathered headgear. He spoke in his people's traditional language. It made him feel strong. And Trump wore his Make America Great Again cap, appeared to be listening at length, though both sides declined to comment on exactly what was said. But this is what Crowchild said. When it came to that one individual, I almost didn't stay. I was filled with rage. I was going to go home because I didn't want to bring any negativity to my people. However, I did consult with close people and advisors, and based on feedback, I stayed considering that visibility is key and diplomacy is important. I sorry, I'm like about to cry because my voice cracked. That when I see stuff like that, that shit is hard. And I can't
Hmm.
imagine. And yet that's the most beautiful thing. Um, and I wish I could say I was there. I'm not Katana. I'm not as calm. I mean, I'm definitely better than I used, like more healed than I ever used to be, but I still have more work to do, right? I'm still not that person who can be stoic and loving all the time. And I mean, we're human too, so it's just a thing. But I want to grow in more grace and love. And in the climate we have, it is hard, and yet it's in the hard times that this is where we're growing. And we choose if we want to grow in that or if we don't. Um, so yeah. I One thing I wanted to ask you is what would you, because you're really good at staying calm, and I know you've done a lot of work in that. Um, what would you say to somebody if they want to learn how to have conversations, to be more loving and kind in this time of division um and political like hatred? Um, if somebody were to come to you and say, how can I do this? Do you have any advice or anything that you would offer?
Yeah, the first piece of advice would be pause and breathe, hug yourself, and know that it's going to be okay. And the second part of that would be to seek someone like myself or you that is in that space of I want to do better. I want to help the people around me do better, feel better. You know, I know that I can't help everybody. We need as many people as we can. When you know in your gut that your gut is telling you, what I really want is I want to be able to work and feed my family, feed myself if you're single, and just have a life where I feel good and or I can at least try to feel good. But where I don't feel threatened by life around me all the time, where it's not just in overload, because that's where we are. And I don't blame people for reacting the way they are. I get it because I have my moments like yesterday. I was in pain. I was exhausted from a long visit and pushing myself to do something I wasn't sure I could do. And I don't know if I could duplicate it. And I'm not going to try because of how bad it resulted. I mean, I'm still recovering. It took me a long time. The pain was a full on 10. I'll give you that. But it was worth the effort because I was able to go and be around people, even if it was for a little bit, interact with people. I always thought I didn't want to be around people. I do. I just have to do it in small amounts, and that's okay.
Oh, me
So I think a
too.
lot, yeah, small
I
amounts. Some of us have to do it a little at a time. And that's what my true advice would be. It
yeah.
doesn't have to be you accepting everything everybody's talking about. If you're willing to go with your gut and go, something's telling me maybe there's something different. And yeah, maybe I do would rather barbecue with my neighbor than to hunt him down with a spear gun, because I feel like that's the best depiction of what we got right now.
Mm.
We
And
went
and
from having barbecues to people chasing each other with spear guns, and it's heartbreaking for me
yeah.
because I grew up in an atmosphere of anger and violence, and I really believed that I was being brought into a world of loving and that was all going to change. And I realized, no, we are the change. And I was like, oh, holy shit. I'm sorry, I just cussed. But yeah, when you realize that, no, we're our generation, our generations. And that's the other thing we've got to get out of. The baby boomers aren't better. The millennials aren't. We're all people in this together.
oh my
There are things
goodness.
that happened from one to the other that was different, but everybody had different tools to work with, different levels of awareness, different, I mean, hell, I see people certain ages get freaked out by computers. They're still seeing things for the first time. So I can only imagine what kind of, oh, I'm being left behind, turn my back to it and say it's awful. And that's where it starts, right? We get those little cracks and we start to feel isolated and alone and icky. And that's no fun. What we want to cultivate is a more accepting, open. Open is what I work toward. If you're just willing to hear one thing a day, even, or one thing a week, just being willing makes you, it will change your heart. It will change everything for your world. And if you can move into that space of unconditional love that you would want for yourself, understanding for anything you've done wrong in your past, because we really do need to leave the past in the past, but we can learn from it. We can still look at it and go, okay, you know what? I don't want to live there because that was pretty ugly, but this is what I know I can do differently. And I can do something better that makes it better, you know. So that willingness, pause, take a breath, love yourself, and go, I'm willing to have a conversation to see if there's somebody safe that you feel safe with, someone like myself or you, again, it somebody that they think is going to give them an honest answer without judging them.
And like you always remind me when I need it, be more curious. Um,
Yes.
you don't know why somebody voted the way they did. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean that, we see this like, oh, you want, we see it here in Canada too. You want to kill our country and you're hateful. And it's like, eh, oh, you don't. eh. It's exhausting.
It can feel heavy at times. And that's where we just remember, yeah, I can understand how you could feel that way.
Yeah.
It's definitely um a better option, and giggling whenever possible. Even if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but taco will forever be funny to me. And finding out that it was Wall Street that gave that joke made it even better.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Oh
something,
boy.
if we can't laugh at ourselves, I'm sure people mocked me, and that's all right. That means that they at least noticed me.
And when you can't laugh at yourself, it makes it worse because they come after you more.
Well, yeah, and if you're gonna do something that warrants somebody giving you a mock, you knew you were doing that in the first place. You're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
We sometimes I think people that go public forget what that means.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how anyone gets into politics, but that's that's
You have to
definitely
be
not me.
you have to be a unique character. I definitely know that. Oh my gosh.
Well, thank you, Katana. I know I wasn't like super angry during this, but I sort of feel like I was. But it's only when I get kind of like, "Arr," but I'm not even angry. Like I'm literally calm inside, but I get riled up just uh when I see stuff happening and
Mhm.
you're just it well and like I tear up and I feel bad for people going through stuff that's hard and just it's hard being a sensitive person in this world and because you're an empath and so um yeah
You know, and before we go,
yeah
just a real fast one on that. Now, I can also understand the other side. So if they're seeing that same thing, something that's lighting them up, right? We get it, the passion that because you were just getting excited. You were just showing your passion, that thing that's where I was trying to go with that, is that we can have anger inside. That's okay. It's still, we're human. We can't expect ourselves not to go through these natural things that are going to come up, especially when we get fear kicked in. Oh, somebody's taking something. Oh, somebody's going to kill someone. Some of that is allowing outside influence that we need to verify for ourselves. That is important. We need to verify information, three or more sources that can be fairly trusted. It's a tough ball these days, but get it from multiple sources. Don't get it from one. And there are some that, like Fox News, that our Supreme Court has said 3 times is not real news. So I would recommend not relying on that one. Have the fire, have the passion, demonstrate it, but we don't have to go to violence with it.
Yeah. And see, once again, I was like judging myself for being excited.
Yeah.
I wasn't actually angry, but that goes deep for me. It's like I
Yeah.
said to you growing up, you had to be good and you had to be blah blah blah. Um, but I also know I'm very calm. Uh,
Hmm.
but also like it's okay to be angry and give yourself grace too in those moments. I've had situations with my dad where like it's, we'll have good conversations one time and the next time I'm just like rah 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 because he's rah 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 rah. And I'm like, why did I go there? But you'll learn. You'll learn.
I think when it comes to people we're related to,
Oh,
things get a little different there. It's just
yes.
where we know we should turn away, we often won't. When we know we shouldn't say something, we often do. It just, I think I've watched my children over the years and just as they were growing up and realized, I think they just are born to poke each other.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. Anyways, thank you, Katana, for
Thank you.
taking the time and energy and for sharing your love and your wisdom. And I really appreciate it. I think I said to you tonight, like I just, ideas come to me, and I said, this is important. And sometimes I am kind of nervous, like, I didn't want to get into political stuff on my podcast, but it was just like we have to talk about this too.
Well, this also got into emotional intelligence, which is what both of us deal with in our own entrepreneurial journey,
Yes.
right? I mean, our books deal with it, our businesses deal with it, even, and I've learned to incorporate it into my politics. And I love it because I, I'm doing my best to model what it is that I feel people truly want. Because when I have those one-on-one conversations, I can hug people. I've got pictures with Republicans that people look at me and go, you're crazy. On policy, we don't agree at all. But yet, as a human being, he is somebody that I would sit down with and have a beer and a burger.
See, I heard, and controversial, but Joe Biden was on the Simon Sinek podcast, A Bit of Optimism, last year. And he was saying in previously, uh, the senators, they would all have lunch together, both
Mhm.
parties. And
Yeah,
and he goes, I was close friends with, can't remember the dude's name, but he introduced him to his wife, and they were different parties. But they could argue it out in the, what's your thing called? The Senate,
yeah, in the
in the
chambers.
chambers. They can argue it out, but then when they leave, there's no hatred. They're like, you're a human being and maybe we're friends or maybe right. And I thought, wow, has that changed? That's a beautiful thing, and we need to come back to seeing each other as humans. And also I want to say that seeing emotional intelligence in a leader is sexy.
It needs to be said. We need younger people. I've said it since I was 18. We can't be always led by all these people. And I've heard that there's a lot of the older camp trying to keep the younger ones from coming in. It's their world. They have to be able to lead it. So guide them in. Don't do this standoffish bull crap I'm going to slap them for. Sorry, I had to say that, but it's what you want. It's like, no, we've got to help them come in and take over. Stop being so obstinate about holding your space. And yes, there is a performance for the people. Now, this sounds sick, but and it's twisted because it is. So when they go and they have lunch or dinner together, yeah, they get along. All those things that I talked about when we get people one on one, they're buddies, they're good old buddies. They do different things together. They play baseball, go to the gym. I mean, we've seen examples of it over the years if we've paid attention, right? And yet when they get before that closed circuit TV that's in there, and they're in those chambers and they're in those offices, they are quote unquote, and I'm going by what I've seen, heard, and interacted with firsthand. So this is secondhand information. They perform for the people. They
Oh,
perform to a base of people. They want to keep them doing what they're doing.
no.
It's a performance.
Hmm.
But
Oh,
we control the narrative. So if we're
yeah.
participating, we can control that narrative. But that we've forgotten that, and they've done a good job at helping people forget that.
And like you were saying, the generational back and forth
Yeah,
blaming
yeah.
and division, like, oh, come on.
Time to
It's
get together.
crazy, yeah. Anyways, I appreciate Katana. I will put all of your information in the show notes so people can reach out to you and find your podcast and everything. And thank you so much for coming on the Step Up
Thank
podcast.
you.
All right, guys, thanks for listening. If you stayed this long and didn't get angry, kudos. That's amazing. And thank you. Sending love to you all. Bye.